Hello, everyone. It's time for another yearly review. I don't know, Adam. We were talking about this before. When I usually have done these in the past, I think we've done them 4 years in a row now. Um, it seemed a little bit dictatory. This one's not going to be dictatory. In fact, I'm already laughing. We're having conversations. So,
I feel like
congratulations. I'm not a dictator.
it's tough because it's like you. Well, I mean, either that or now you have a vice dictator to assist you.
Oh,
Like, good point, Supreme Leader. Excellently delivered.
that's how we should do it. You should call me Supreme Leader for all of 2018. We'll try it out. We'll see if it works. I don't know if it's going to.
Another dictate from the propaganda department
Yeah.
here at RollPlay.
Also, we're gonna do some with these green screens, but instead, we're gonna let you guys do something. Put whatever you want up here behind us and send us pictures on tweet it at roleplay or something like that. I don't know.
Primo. It's gonna
Let's
be
get
great.
started. We got a bunch of stuff to talk about. I think this is gonna be a long video. I'm not sure. I'm gonna start off with some stats. Everyone loves stats. They're great. We'll kind of a little bit of a recap for 2017. We did 88 shows in 2017. There was 74 in 2016, so it's about a 19-20% growth, which I think both me and Adam are pretty proud of. The majority of those shows were under your helm.
So in this case, a show is like an episode of or one shot of or live show of like start to finish.
Yes.
Welcome to today's episode until the end of that
A
thing.
3 to 4 hour, mostly 4 hour thing.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, we streamed 409 hours on the channel of D&D in 2017. I also think some of those hours were streamed. No, I think we had already made the ruling that Stars Without Numbers wasn't the game that we are going to use anymore. That we were using only D&D. So
Yes. Yeah. We like every other person on Twitch use D&D as our stand-in category.
Yeah.
And in this case, it's actually helpful for us for looking at these numbers because we don't have to add all the other categories together. 409 hours. That's a lot of hours.
it's a lot of hours. Yeah,
That's more than 1 hour every single day for the entire year
yeah.
of role playing.
And then you realize how much content that is to watch. That's a lot of content.
Yeah. Anybody out there who watched every one of these 409 hours, here's your imaginary Chivo. You can pin it to your imaginary Chivo board. You did it.
Yeah, and that
You
that
watched
number
everything.
that number might vary depending on where you get your sources from. Twitch doesn't give us those stats. They're all external sites, and they're all a little bit different, just depending on
Yeah.
how they capture them and stuff like that. Keep in mind, there's also break time in there. There's also 10 minutes lead into, so you can do 880 minutes cut off of that. So it's a good chunk of time. If you
I'm
want
just
to check,
checking. I'm checking out of the whole math conversation altogether. I'm out.
if you want to check about that, you could. The other stuff, we did 3 live shows. We did Swan Song Live, which was in February. Then we did Nebula Jazz Live in September, and Court of Swords Live in October, which is the most recent one. Wanted to do 4, but I got told I had to get out of my house and had about a week to do it, and that kind of threw everything for a plan and kind of just switched. It screwed up everything.
Yeah,
But I'm
yeah.
still.
There was a time. There was a time where we had a like an end of show. We had another post October pre January show plan. But yeah, that's the trick. Like we don't have a dedicated studio space. It's JP's house, and so when
Yeah.
things shift, they shift dramatically. So we're catching up with that shift now.
Yeah. One of the other things that didn't happen till I don't know when we started using this. I think it was late November, at least when we got into it. We finally found a new video solution, which is the one we're using right now. It's the one that's been used in Court of Swords for the past 2 to 3 episodes, I think. It's also been used on Drop Frames. And I like it. I like it a lot. It's really cool.
Yeah, when I go back to review an episode, like to do prep stuff, I now no longer am like, oh, I sound so bad. I look so terrible compared to
Yeah.
my stream. And now if you look at like an individual member of the cast's stream and you look at the shows, they're much more close in alignment, which is super exciting for us because, we're all very vain and we want to look really nice and sound great.
Yeah, well, it's always shitty when you have pretty much everyone on the show is a streamer or content creator, and they all have nice camera setups and nice mic setups. And then the program that we used the majority of the time, Skype and also Zoom, just decided to crunch a lot of things on that. Zoom does really bad audio crunching, and Skype, although it was pretty good towards the end of its run here on roleplay and whatnot, it still crunches a lot. You can go back and listen to Max's audio in particular gets crunched really bad. Adam's audio gets crunched pretty bad as well in some of those other episodes. So I'm glad to say we finally found a solution that works. The other thing is that it's actually going to get better once I move, because I'm going to be moving in March, which is something that we'll kind of bring up here a couple of times throughout the all the stuff that we're going to talk about. But in moving, we're actually getting fiber at the house. And this program,
and it's so good. Oh my God.
The program that we're using is actually scalable because it's peer-to-peer. So I kind of act as a server in that sense. And when the server's got beefier internet that everyone can pipe into, the current bit rate on Adam's camera is about 2,000 bit rate. For those that understand what that means, it's actually going to double. And we could potentially go up right now from a 720p camera feed all the way to 1080p 60. So
it's going to look so nice when we do one of these videos that's just you and me and our sweet internets.
Yeah. It'll be pretty good. I'm
so excited.
I'm pretty excited about it. So that's kind of everything going on in 2017. Some of my personal goals, I think this kind of speaks to role play goals in general. Adam might have a couple others that he might add in throughout this whole video. But we're coming up on 5 years in February. February 18th will actually be the 5-year anniversary of the first role play VOD. And we still don't have a fucking intro for this show. We've done, I don't even want to know how many goddamn episodes we've done. And I still have no singular intro to use for everything. So that's a goal that I kind of have already started on. And we actually, I did a bunch of groundwork on that today of the day of this recording. And it seems like it's going to happen. So I don't know when that's going to happen. But sometime in 2018, I hope to have a goddamn role play intro. The other one is last year we did 3 live shows. This year, I want to try to do 4. We'll be talking about a live show later in this video. So that's 1 already down. The tickets are purchased. So unless people just decide to fuck off and not come to the show, we've already got 1 planned. It's already happening. We're going to announce it later today. Once it's up there, people are screwed. They got to show up because it's not my fault. So the other thing, moving in March, I'm out of this house on March the 1st. It'll be the final live show in this house. But the nice thing about moving is that we're going to be able to kind of custom tailor, because I'm buying a house. I'm not renting anymore. We can kind of custom tailor the house to fit what we need. So I still think 4 live shows is going to be hittable this year.
I'm personally very excited that you're moving, because it means a whole new set of American airports for me to get laid over in. It's going to be great. I'm looking forward to it.
You're probably going to fly into Chicago, I think, from now on.
What's up, O'Hare? Let's be friends.
Yeah, I think you're going to fly into Chicago more, because I think that's a major connection to St. Louis. I don't know if I haven't looked at flights at all, so I don't know.
I don't know anything about American geography, so I don't know if it's closer or Texas is a far ass time away from me. So it's going to be good. I'm excited too.
It's more northeast. I'm moving northeast. I'm moving to St. Louis.
It's nice because we've been in this place where we've been like, okay, we know a big change is coming. We don't totally know when for such a long time. I mean, obviously that's just for me, like you're moving your whole damn life. Yeah. So it's going to be really cool. I'm looking forward to seeing the contrast between here's our last show in the one venue and here's our first show in the new one, and seeing kind of what that looks like and seeing what the new space is. I think it's going to be super fun.
The nice thing is that the set designer will now live with me, so that it can be worked on.
Yes.
It can be worked on the entire time. Like, it's not going to be, hey, we've got 3 days to show, we got to build it. It's going to be, hey, we got a show in 3 months. Let's think about that. Walk into the set room that we have and let's think about what we want this to look like, which is phenomenal. I think that's going to change a lot.
I hope that the basement prison cell that you build for Scott is nicely appointed.
Yeah.
And you get him those quality manacles, not the cheap IKEA ones.
Yeah. We'll be quote breaking ground in the middle of February. Scott, I'm actually flying Scott to St. Louis the day that I close on the house, so that he can be there for the contractor, so we can.
Can we get a picture? Can we get a picture of you with like a giant pair of novelty scissors cutting an enormous ribbon that says role play on it? Can we do that?
We could, maybe. I'll see what we can do. Maybe me and Eric can do that.
How much do a pair of giant plastic scissors cost?
It can't be too much. I don't know. We'll find a way to reuse them. I'll write them off. It'll work. So yeah, that's all happening in March. And that I'll kind of have my own personal log of that on Twitter and whatnot, but that doesn't have too much to do with roleplay. Just kind of have a bump in the schedule. Expect that going into March, that, I'll be moving basically about 1,000 miles northward. So, and then of course I want to do more one shots. We did a pretty good amount of one shots last year, especially with Adam kind of taking August off. We were able to throw in about 4 one shots. It was a hell of an undertaking to do, but
Yeah.
I think that it'll be a little bit easier now that we've kind of got a group that I can reach out to and say like, hey, you wanna run one shot with us? It's not, hey, my name is JP. I do a show called RollPlay. We'd love to work with you. Blah blah. Oh, okay, yeah. It's just, hey, you want to run another one? That conversation's already done. So that's good. That's kind of what we want to do in 2018. Adam, for you, I think some of your personal goals will kind of come with some of the stuff we're going to announce. Correct?
Yeah, I mean, for me, my goals are always just focusing on the shows that we're doing, making sure we're getting the most out of the system, engaging with the game and the casts as we go. So for me, it's all very kind of in the moment. How can I make this episode the best possible thing? But I do have some stuff later on.
That's true.
We'll talk about that when we get there.
Let's jump over into Patreon. We don't have anything really new to announce in terms of the Patreon at this point in time. Still gonna be doing our MP3s every single week. Still got our post shows every single episode, or 99% of episodes. There's always one where someone's got to run immediately after.
As a reflection on doing those for what, like, I don't know, a while now.
Yeah.
I love them.
Oh, I'm glad we have them. I've actually think they've changed a lot of the shows for the better. Yeah.
Right. So what often happens for folks who don't like necessarily get to see this, when you play a game, a role playing game with your friends, and you all meet up at somebody's house or whatever, your gaming club, and there's like the bullshitting at the beginning where you're all coming in and waiting for people to show up and whatever, and you're warming up, you're playing your game, and then after you're packing up and you're putting your books away and people are getting rides or leaving, you're chatting and stuff. But we don't often get that with roleplay. It's often like, especially before we started doing the post show, it's like, all right, you show up half an hour if you're good, show up half an hour before the show, we get the call ready. We don't get to like really hang out and talk because we're all still getting ready. I'm doing GM stuff, my final prep. We do the show, and then before it used to be like, cool, good show, everybody, see you next week. But now we get to be like, cool, good show, but like, why? Like, what did you like about the show? For me as the GM, it's just like, it's so good. It's instrumental in making the shows feel good, and it's a good way for me to check in with the cast. So I don't know, like I think that people are enjoying them on the Patreon side, but I've certainly enjoyed participating in that stuff, and I think like you said, it has really it's really, especially for the longer running campaigns, it's really flavored that stuff.
Yeah. Especially for Court of Swords, I can think of multiple times where we've had a conversation, or you've had a conversation with one of the other cast members, and it's been like, oh well, maybe that's why that character is doing that, or maybe that's why we should kind of go down that path. And same with Nebula Jazz. I think Nebula Jazz has probably had the most change because of some of those post shows for a lot of the different characters on it.
I think it's especially useful for people who want to, like, it gives the cast members a space to say like, well, what if I do this with my character, or like, did you like when I did this with my character? It gives us some room to bounce ideas off of each other that we do in text throughout the week, but everybody's real busy, so it's hard to have a focused place for that. So it's been cool. I really like those, and they've been really positive for me as a GM.
I agree. We got our MP3 still, like I said. I think we're gonna try to do more reviews, or just more videos of me and Adam bullshitting. Reviews are tough because we technically we can't play the game and then review it, because if we play the game, it's just going to be a show, then it's going to be a post show. So we'll figure something out there.
This is the trick with RPG reviews generally, right? And as a game designer, as a person who's made a role-playing game, my favorite reviews are the ones where people are like, yo, I haven't played Dungeon World, but it sucks. I read it halfway and this game sucks.
Right.
Like it's like listening to the soundtrack of a movie and like having someone tell you the summary of the film, but never actually going and sitting down in the theater and watching it and then doing a review. Like, you do really have to play the game most times. Otherwise you're reviewing the book.
Right.
And I think we can do hypothetical reviews. Like D&D stuff's easy because I can be like, yo, here's some classes I think would fit into Court of Swords, or like, here's some stuff I think that would be good. And JP can say, I would make a character using these things. But like you said, if we're not playing the game, we can't really like properly review it. But Yeah, I think we're in a funny space with this where we're both really hype about doing more content, but we're like, but but what? Besides just like, so
Sure,
how do you
yeah.
feel about
Well,
this picture of an orc?
the other thing too is a lot of the stuff when it comes to kind of putting things behind a paywall like we have here on, or like we do on Patreon. Obviously, this is on YouTube, and you're probably watching this on Twitch as well. Is that I don't want to just put like normal content, or it's very specific things I think go behind a paywall. And if I'm going to do something where it's like, hey, let's bring on someone and talk to them for an hour about something, I want that to be as fucking free as going on YouTube and watching it. Right. So we're kind of always trying to figure out exactly, riding that line, exactly what should go behind a paywall and what shouldn't, which is kind of something we're going to continue with in 2018.
I feel like the Patreon space, my vision of it is, it's like the rare cuts, the deep, the like B-sides, the remixes. It's all the stuff that like we want to give everybody access to the core content. But if you're a patron, we want to give you stuff that you're going to appreciate as a patron, someone who's like that extra level of being a fan.
Yep.
So I think my hope for going into 2018 is that the patrons give us that feedback. Like if you have ideas about stuff you want us to do more of, and this has happened in the Q&As, we've seen giving feedback on that stuff, but more, all of it. Give me the feedback. Tell us what you like.
Yep. We're also, speaking of Q&As, we're going to try to do one every single month. Last year, I think we did 3. We missed December. I don't know if you realize that, but we missed December. Yeah. It's always a little weird doing December because basically the last 15 days of December just kind of, you just mark them off the calendar and don't do anything with them. it's
pretty much just light them on fire, and you're like, well, there you go.
Yeah, especially in a long distance relationship, because it's, well, I'm going to travel to your house, so then you can come to my, and I'll do the relatives there. Then you can come and we'll do relatives with me here, and it's a mess. That won't happen next year. Hopefully that'll be better. But we're going to try to do 12. We'll do one definitely in January, most likely towards the end of the month. We'll announce when that's going to be when we know more. And then I guess the one thing that will change, although we don't know when, right now it's kind of on, we like to use the word hiatus around here a lot, so it's on hiatus, is the monthly hangout games with Adam, or the monthly hangouts and the games with Adam. I want to take those off Patreon. Patreon is not built for that. Patreon is built for kind of monthly reoccurring subs for content that is always accessible and always able to be like purchased in a sense. With these monthly hangouts, this is 100% happens every single month. It's the 28th. All right, JP, you need to go and make sure that you tell everyone that they've been contacted, and also check to make sure that no one else has changed their pledge because they don't want to get charged again. Now it's the 3rd of the next month. All right, these 2 people got charged again. I got to refund those 2 people. Make sure they're contacted. Oh God, someone new jumped in because I didn't take it down. Let's go ahead and contact them and say, hey, we'll talk to you.
There has never been a month. There's never been a month where there wasn't some kind of snafu. Like
it's
every single time.
Every single time.
It's the platform. I love doing these. Every game that I've played has been a delight.
Yeah.
Every chat is super fun, but like the platform just doesn't. It's not doing us any favors. So like I would personally love to continue offering this as something that we can do, but we really need to find a way to make it so it's not a total pulling our hair out nightmare for JP and I to orchestrate it. Yeah. So it's definitely one of those things that we need the tool to fit with what we're trying to accomplish.
So we're taking it off of Patreon is the short of it. The long of it is it's going to pop back up on, I don't know, something like a Shopify or something. But then it gets in this weird situation. It's like, well, how the fuck do we link people to this Shopify that exists that has nothing to do with the Patreon, but does because it used to be on there? So how, I got to figure that out. I don't know if it's going to be like an ad on the community site where there's a button on the right-hand side that says so many slots available, blah, blah, blah.
If you want to hang out with Adam this month, send a self-addressed stamped envelope with a bank order to RollPlay HQ, care of. No, it's just a thing. It's hard doing these weird, like monthly rotating, like slot-based, but also like non-recurrent. We're trying to use a wrench to paint a house, and it's not working for us. So we'll keep trying to figure out a solution for that.
We're gonna figure it out. And then last but not least, thank you guys for all your support. We were able to do all of the stuff that we talked about earlier because you guys support us on Patreon and also on Twitch with the subs, and also on YouTube watching there as well. It was kind of a stellar year for us, year over year, I guess, in terms of all that stuff. And it also is kind of helping us basically build a set in my new house. It'll be an entire room that will only, it's not going to be my living room anymore. It's a literal soundproof room that'll exist within my house that has the entire purpose is for doing a live show, which is nice.
It's going to be good.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
I'm excited for that stuff as well. So thank you guys for all the support. But that's enough kind of talking about all that stuff. I think it's time we talk a little bit about some of the new things that we're going to be doing in 2018.
Let's talk about shows.
Yeah, I think we'll start off with, we've kind of got a document here because there's a lot of stuff. I wanted to make sure that we hit everything. We're just going to go kind of show by show. So let's start with the longest running show on RollPlay right now, which is, of course, Court of Swords. One of the things that we learned in 2017 with Court of Swords is it's a really weird thing. Maybe weird's a harsh word. It's a really difficult thing to bring guests on a show because it changes the show with every new guest. Once you kind of have a cast on a show, it changes that entire formula that already existed and can kind of mix up things, both good and bad. But it just mixes them up to begin with, which is kind of a weird thing for a viewer, I think.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think that you can sometimes you can end up in a situation where like everything meshes really well. And that doesn't necessarily mean the guest like fits in with the show. It just means that like the time of the narrative is right and the guest has some ideas. Like Sean, Day 9's arc was super fun, but like totally off course from everything else we had done.
Right.
It was great. But it was very different. And then other times you can have someone like Anne's arc where her character fits really nicely into the world and helps like really build the world. And this is all about like what that person brings to the table, but it's massively challenging. And in a lot of ways, it was like recasting the whole show because everyone would need an episode or two to kind of like get what they were putting down and follow them into the thing. And to combine that with the way we were playing D&D, the fact that D&D, the further in you get, the more complicated it becomes. There was a lot going on there that made Court of Swords very challenging to run both as a show and as a campaign.
Yeah. So with all that in mind, I think when Zeke joined Court of Swords, which was also the same time that we changed and kind of went down this more narrative path instead of combat path for terms of XP and kind of just the show focus. We did so with the point of Zeke is very RP focused, and I think that comes through on the show and pretty much everything that he's done. And it changed the show. And the feedback that we've gotten pretty much across the board has been that it changed the show for the better. Everyone seems to really like it compared to what it was before.
Now I think what's interesting is that like obviously there are people who will prefer different styles of game, but I absolutely think that we're splitting. We can split Court of Sword into like BZ and AZ, right? Like we have the whole show prior to Zeke's arrival, and then it's almost like the studio hired a new showrunner, and like we moved like we're on a different channel now, but it's the same universe. And it, like I think I underestimate, like I talk a lot when I talk about role-playing games about how the mechanics change the show, but the fact that there was this sort of perfect storm of a new player who was very invested in a particular kind of role-playing, plus we changed the reward mechanism, which alters the way that I was DMing the show. All of that stuff together really made episode kind of, 50 plus feel like almost like a rebirth for the show. Like it feels very different. Yeah.
So with all that in mind, what was that?
I was just saying, and all the cast, I feel like because we checked in, right? We were like, how's everybody feeling about this stuff? Yeah. And both the cast and the audience seem to be responding really positively to it.
Yeah, everyone seems to be liking it. So with all that said, Zeke's going to join the show as a permanent fourth cast member. That we don't know if that means we'll ever go with 5 cast members. The thing with D&D is the more people you add, the real laborious combat gets, and everyone kind of fights for screen time, etc. We've never actually done a show with 5 people, but it might be a very rare possibility that we do have guests come on sometimes in 2018.
Yeah, what we're gonna do is every 6 to 8 months we're gonna add a new cast member
Yeah,
until in about 2 or 3 years from now, Court of Swords will be the only 18-player game of 5th edition 20th level Dungeons and Dragons on the internet,
exactly.
and it'll be just great. We got a long no, all of that is horseshit. I
Yeah.
think cementing the cast where it is and really embracing the kind of game Court of Swords has become, I think is a smart move. And if we found someone who wanted to join in as a fifth cast member, I think because the game is so much less combat focused, I think we could do that. I think we have the freedom to do that where we didn't before.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, that's the one change that's kind of happening with Court of Swords as a show is that Zeke will now be there every week till we decide to change that up, which we don't really know whenever that's going to be. A lot of the other shows that we've done, we kind of think of them in a sense of, we're going to do seasons, or we're going to do, 3 more weeks and then visit if we want to continue. I think Court of Swords has kind of become the mainstay of roleplay. And that's, we've nailed 40 or 53, 54, maybe like 56 episodes. I don't know the exact count. But it doesn't feel like a 56 show.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like we've done 56. Yeah.
There was a time where we were joking about show's almost at episode 50, time to put it to bed. But I think the undercurrent of some of those jokes was but really, are we done with Court of Swords? How are we doing here? And I really feel like now I could easily, with the new model, there's enough world to explore and build. We could easily do another 50 episodes without blinking. I absolutely think that there's room for that now.
Yeah,
a lot of the stuff that made the show feel frustrating for us as cast members has been changed, which is cool. Game's not working for you the way it is. You don't have to abandon ship. You can just rebuild it.
Yep. And if you stopped watching Court of Swords for whatever reason, episode 51 is when when Zeke joined the show, and it wasn't a reboot, but it kind of was a reboot. You can watch all the other episodes if you want to, but you don't have to. They'll just give a little bit of backstory to kind of what everything is happening. But Zeke's a new character in the world, and Zeke's a new player in the world. So we kind of have to do hey, this is why this is that way. And Zeke, oh, okay. But we don't reveal everything to him. He's still learning to this very day, which is really cool.
Yeah, I'm having it's an interesting time because your character, we've talked about this a little bit in the post shows and stuff. Your character is acting as kind of a narrator for folks who are new to the show,
right? Where
you're giving context to some of this stuff. I think it's a better time. It's a better time than it ever has been to jump into Court of Swords.
Boom.
So if you've been waiting, now's the time. Get on board.
The last thing we'll say about Court of Swords is I think for all of 2017, I had spoken about these mystical overlays that are still coming, and they're still coming. But we now have a dev in our Slack that I talk to about once a week and kind of where that's at. It really is probably the biggest endeavor dev-wise that I've ever undertaken. And it's been a complete learning process in terms of, 1, how it works, 2, the time it takes to do such a thing, and 3, kind of what it really means to kind of fully automate Roll20 in an overlay sense for a show. And no one's really done it before either is the other thing, at least that I know of, and maybe they have. But it is something that I think when it finishes, it'll be really, really cool. And I'm hoping that's sometime here in the first quarter of 2018. But I'm not going to put a date to this so that I'm not beholden to anything. I will say, though, that the person that's currently working on it, I've worked with before. They're not someone kind of from the outside. They have a great track record, and hopefully we can kind of knock that out sooner than later. But I don't have anything to show you guys for that. It's still going to kind of look like that tweet that I said a couple months back. In fact, it'll look very much like that, but it might just work a little bit different. So that's still to come, and we'll get there when we get there. But yeah, that's what's going on with Court of Swords. Let's jump into Nebula Jazz. When we finished season 1 of Nebula Jazz with the live show, it was definitely one of the things where everyone was sitting at the desk, and I'm pretty sure it was minutes after it finished, I came over and said hey, you guys want to do a season 2 of this thing? And everyone was unanimous and oh yeah, we're doing a season 2. We're all in. We're doing it. And I think we started that next week. It was
we
that
jumped
quick.
right into it pretty quick.
Yeah. And season 2, I think we've done since then, since, what was that, October? Or since September, I think we've done, I don't know, 8 or 9 episodes, something like that in the new season.
That sounds about right.
And we're getting close to kind of wrapping that up. And I think once we wrap that up, and we're thinking 5 to 7, we're not going to really put a number on it, because we're not going to, Adam, the story has to be finished in 5 episodes, because
Yeah, we don't
to.
want to HBO this shit and be like, tune in next time. There's not going to be a next time. See ya. Peace out.
Yeah. But sometime, we're thinking 5 to 8 episodes. Nebula Jazz will be wrapped up for season 2, and we will kind of set sail on that show. I know, fan favorite. I know that's definitely going to be upsetting news to a lot of people, but I do think one of the nice things is that we actually will be giving it an ending, which is something we might have faltered on in the past for other shows, and we're not going to with Nebula Jazz, because it deserves an ending.
Yeah, I think this is a thing that the closest analog in the sort of role play universe to Nebula Jazz was Mirror Shades, right? Mirror Shades had a similarly like frantic tone, and was a big fan favorite, and I certainly love playing it. But it's better to give a thing an ending than to like let it stop being like fun. So we want to close Nebula Jazz up with a bang, and then see what's next on the horizon.
Yeah, so that'll be sometime. We're thinking probably like March-ish is when that'll wrap up. We'll be very vocal about when we think it's gonna end, because it'll definitely be a conversation of like, Adam, what are you thinking here, or even with the cast, what are you guys thinking here? A couple more episodes to finish the story. Where do you guys want to kind of take this, etc. That's definitely a conversation that'll happen, and I think has been kind of happening after a lot of the Patreon videos, just kind of talking amongst the group. But yeah, that'll be it for Nebula Jazz. But like Adam says, or said, with that kind of going out the window, it leaves a void in the roleplay world, which I think you came to me. Was it after Nebula Jazz, or was it after? I'm trying to think what live show was it?
We started talking about this like August, maybe before, like July.
And I think a lot of people are like, "Oh, the burning wheel is going to be burnt." No, it's not burning wheel. I'm just going to squash that. Stop typing in Twitch chat. It's not burning wheel. But yeah, you floated this idea to me, and I wasn't immediately in until you talked about kind of the premise behind it. Then I was in. But we're kind of talking around it. We'll just open it up. We're going to do a new show. It's going to start March-ish. We're thinking kind of Q2 for 2018. And I think when you go back to kind of to use a big stupid word, kind of the lexicon of roleplay, Swan Song kind of is a big part of what roleplay is today. And one of the things that happened when that conversation started with me and Adam is that Stars Without Numbers put out a new edition that changed a decent amount of things. A lot of things that Adam will go into in the future, because that's going to be the rule set for the new show. We're going to go back to Stars Without Numbers.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty excited for that. I don't think I'm going to be a part of that show. We're not announcing cast members or anything. We're not announcing a name right now. We're kind of leaving that to happen a little bit more organically. I'm not going to try to force it. And I think the other thing that's very important that me and Adam are going to try to get out there as much as possible is that there is zero relationship to Swan Song story-wise.
Yeah, so what we're gonna do is so the thing that I loved about Stars Without Number and still obviously love about it is that I can tell a bunch of different kinds of sci-fi story in the same campaign, right? Like we can do kind of space station horror for one little set of episodes. We can go on a diplomatic mission. We can do a little Star Trek kind of style thing. It gives me as a GM and I think first and foremost as a sci-fi fan, a lot of room to make new things. The game is primarily exploratory, right? It's about a world that's always in motion, whether the players are participating in that motion or not.
Yep.
And it lets me kind of have an overarching idea, and then in the moment be free to see what happens in that space. And so what I'm thinking in terms of building the world for the show is, we're going to generate a sector, and it'll have a lot of things that you're going to be familiar with because of the rule set from Swansong, right? Like the faster than light travel works the same way. There are psychics, there are AI. Like a lot of the base rules that are laid down in Stars Without Number will remain the same. But there's a bunch of really cool new stuff in second edition. There's some cool transhuman stuff. There's some things about AI that we didn't see before. It's giant robots. If you like giant robots, maybe we'll see some of that. And I'm really excited to try out the new system and see kind of what new things we can bring to the table. So, setting wise, like JP said, it's not going to be connected to Swansong in that it will be in a whole nother sector of the universe, but it'll feel in some ways like Swansong. Now I'm we got to pick a cast and we got to get their input on board, but I'm starting to kind of lean more towards like higher space opera, a little less Firefly, a little more Dune, but we'll see as the stuff develops. It's all kind of percolating in my brain right now, but we're definitely gonna go back, because I would probably die without an output for my sci-fi obsession. So we're gonna stay out here in space. We're gonna take a different angle on it.
Yeah, I think it's the sci-fi world is a good foil to kind of everything that Court of Swords represents. So. If we didn't have one of those in RollPlay, there would definitely be a void in kind of the themes of the shows for sure. I think it's also important to state that not only will it not be like Swansong story-wise, it'll also not be like Swansong because we're not going to use the same cast members. I most likely will not be a part of the show. Jeff and Wheat, I'm kind of just saying openly, will not be a part of this show. We've had their kind of story with Swansong, and that type of universe and that type of setting and everything like that. And Steven as well.
What I'm excited about for this too is that like everybody has a favorite kind of sci-fi, right? Like if you ask somebody what kind of sci-fi you like, they're going to say Ghost in the Shell, or they're going to say Star Trek, or they're going to say Star Wars. And so what I'm excited about is I got the kind of sci-fis that I like, and I want to bring in a whole new set of people who might their favorite sci-fi might be something totally different, right? Maybe their favorite sci-fi is like Overwatch, right? So we'll see what people can bring to the table, and then because of the flexibility of Stars Without Number, I can use that system to make it work, right? If somebody comes to me and they're like, Gundam, giant robot pilots is like my thing. I want to play like a hotshot mech pilot. I'm like, I can make that work. So I'm really excited to bring a new cast together and to create this new sci-fi pastiche using a system that we're familiar with.
Yeah, I should also state that's not because me and Jeff and Marcus were not friends. We've all told our story of sci-fi that we wanted to tell. If we were going to continue Swansong, we would just continue Swansong. We're not going to continue Swansong. We don't even know. We're going to call this one Song of Swans, actually, believe it or not. That's how different it is.
It's called Crow's Call, and it's about a plucky group of space freighter pilot.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where I want it to feel familiar. I want us to be able to like look at the structures of the game, right? The faction turn is going to be a huge part of it, like it was with Swansong. But we got all new. I mean, the system is called Stars Without Number, right? We're not going back to the same stars. We got more. There's more shit to look at. So
we're going to do one of these things where we get to figure out if we're going to talk about this idea that we have live, or if we're just going to talk about this idea and then not actually talk about this idea. Do we want to talk about that, or do you want to let that cook till you can kind of figure it out a little bit?
This is the part where the video just awkwardly cuts and we're in a different position. We're like, so anyway, JP, what's the next?
It's up to you. It's up to you if you want to talk about this.
the thing that we're not talking about here is finding a way for fans, particularly patrons or subscribers or however we want to make this work, but that extra level of reward for engagement in the game by way of participating in the greater machinations of the universe through the faction turn, right? If you're a patron and you've read the zines for a little while, back in September or October, I posted an essay about how I would use a faction turn to integrate, Discord and Patreon and like get you, the audience, to control a faction, sort of however democratically you decide to go about that. I still would love to make it work. I've got some ideas about it. And I think that it's an experiment I'd like to try, but we still have to work out the details, right? Like how that would work, how often we would do the turn. I'm gonna think about it a little bit more, and JP and I are gonna talk about it some more. I would like to find a way to make it work. It's on my wish list, but we don't know what that will look like if it happens.
Yeah.
So yeah, something that I'll definitely be thinking about more as we approach. But first we need to find players.
Right.
For the game.
Figure out a name.
And then a name for the show.
Yeah.
And then all the other bullshit that goes into making the show. So, we'll be working on it. While JP's doing all that hard work, I'm going to be game design brain thinking about the faction turn. So,
yeah.
Very excited.
So again, late March for that. That'll be after I get settled in the new house and everything like that. And then we'll get started with the new show. So that's Court of Swords and the new show in 2018. Nebula Jazz will go for about 3 months, so the first little quarter of 2018. And then there's kind of always been this elephant in the room whenever we do anything role-play related, at least with me and Adam, is for whatever reason, the crazies of the world think that they need a third show because there's not enough content out there. If you can't watch the 409 hours, well, we're getting a third show this year. But that doesn't mean that Adam's going to be the GM for it.
Thank Christ. I would disintegrate.
Yeah, you would. You do way too many shows to begin with. Over 2017, we had the ability and almost the luck to be able to work with a ton of different people in terms of a lot of different one shots, and a lot of those one shots were for me to kind of look at, how the community responded to them and kind of how they handled themselves and just kind of the whole thing, right? They were job interviews in a sense of how do you really test someone to be a GM for this thing? Cause you can't just say, hey, let me see your resume. Oh, you've never run a show and for 1,000+ people. Oh, okay. Well, I don't think you can do this then. There's no way to do that. So the best way to kind of let people just show us what you got was doing these one shots. And in late 2017, for Christmas, Mr. Jesse Cox ran a Christmas themed one shot for us, which was also kind of horror themed, which was a lot of fun for me and Adam to kind of keep to ourselves the fact that it was a horror themed one shot because he wasn't telling anyone about it. That was a very close guarded secret that he kept. But with all that said, the community responded to it and really seemed to like what Jesse Cox was cooking in that one shot. And the other thing, after it finished, Jesse was just jubilant with everything. Constantly over on Twitter talking about, loved doing it, would love to do more of it, messaging me and Adam and said, hey, if you guys ever want to work together again, let's talk. So we talked, and Jesse Cox is going to be joining us as our official second roleplay DM for 2018. We know the rules that we're going to be using for him. We're going to be using Tales from the Loop, which is what he ran for his Christmas with Cox show. It's going to be pretty modified, though. And to talk about why it's modified would be to go into kind of the different place that Jesse wants to take us. And I don't think we're ready to do that just yet. Because one, Jesse's not here. And two, we got to make it work for him. I think you kind of bend a lot of that stuff to the GMs that we have.
There's some things that Tales from the Loop does that work really well for the style of GM that I think Jesse wants to be.
Yeah.
It plays to his strengths, and so rather than try to like we picked it for his Christmas one shot for a reason, and I think that most of those reasons still stick for his new idea, which obviously we're not going to talk about. But I'm going to work with Jesse over the next little while, some of which you'll get to see, and we'll kind of bend and fold and hack Tales from the Loop into this other thing. Which is if you know me and you know my design background, hacking games and building new things out of them is my jam. So I'm going to help Jesse make Tales from the Loop into this Tales from the Cox thing that he's going to end up with. So yeah, so we'll share that as that process goes on.
And one of the goals with that is to obviously kind of include everything that comes out of that in the monthly zines zines that we, I hate that fucking word, that we produce here on Patreon.
It's the end of the word magazine. Just take the mega.
I know, but it's such a hipster way to talk about a PDF that we put out every month. It's so hipster.
I mean, what I don't know what else we talked about this. I don't know what else we can call it. Like, it's a pamphlet. It's a Patreon
the
pamphlet.
The RollPlay Patreon pamphlet.
The Patreon pamphlet.
The RPPP.
That's right. It's a 3-way fold out with some illustrations. No, but yes, there'll be grist for the mill for that one. And if you're a subscriber at that level, that's the kind of notes that you're going to see some of as we lead up to Jesse's show.
Yeah, and kind of in talking with Jesse, actually right before we record this video for a little while, there's some things that we want to do specifically for the Jesse Cox show. It's not going to be RollPlay the Jesse Cox show. That's not the name of it. We don't know the name of it yet, by the way. But I kind of like that name, the Jesse Cox show. It's pretty good.
It tells you next to nothing about it.
I know, that's the best.
I would assume that's like a late night show. And like, do we know anybody who can play a keyboard in the background? Like, it's late night.
It's pretty
Jesse
good.
Cox. But it's a role playing game about being on a talk show. No, it's not any of that stuff.
It's not any of those. But in talking with him, we're gonna kind of, I wouldn't say that we're using it as an experiment, but we're doing some different things kind of that we haven't done before on RollPlay in terms of the format. One of those things, and this is actually Jesse's idea, that we both kind of looked at each other and we're like, oh, it's not a bad idea. Let's see how that works out. Jesse's show is going to be 2 hours each episode. And we're thinking right now it's going to be on weekends. That might completely change. But what won't change is that they're not going to be 4 hours a week. They're going to be 2 hours a week, or 2 hours and 30 minutes a week, or 2 hours. It's going to be shorter.
When Jesse came to us with this idea, was like, I want to do a tightly focused, like 2 hours of role play show. My first thought was like, well, yeah, of course, that's about as much Jesse as I can take. So 2 hours sounds great. But we talked more about it, and I think it'll be interesting. I know that Jesse's intent is to just like wring as much as possible out of his cast in a short burst of emphatic energy. And I think based on the conversations we've had about the system and the sort of genre and setup that Jesse wants to go with, I think a 2 hour show, I think it could work. I was skeptical at first, but now I'm like, yeah, I could see that. So I'm really interested as a person who views this kind of content. I'm looking forward to tuning in and seeing what this looks like.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too is that once we get the cast, which we don't know, and once Jesse kind of figures out the ins and outs of the show, which he doesn't know fully yet, I think it's going to be the type of situation, I hope, where they're all like, hey, what if we just did an extra hour today? I mean, you guys, what are you doing later? You just want to keep going? I'm hoping that's what occurs. Not necessarily because I want more action out of it or I want more from it. I just hope that everyone is super into it. And I think that's kind of the goal that Jesse's setting out is making it as much action every single week that people are going to leave that show wanting more as much as possible. Both the cast, both them, and both the viewers.
I'm really looking forward to the way it's going to mix up the format. And if Jesse is doing these sort of punchy, focused 2 hour shows, then it lets me, in the 8 hours of GMing I have every week, to be like, so what does it mean to be human?
Right.
How about we spend the next 3 hours talking about this, but on a spaceship?
Yeah.
So it's a cool change in the format, and I think that it plays to Jesse's strengths, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what he can do with it.
Yeah. So again, that'll start March-ish. It'll start once I get moved into the new house. It'll start once Nebula Jazz is kind of over. And so you got that to look forward to. Like Adam said, we'll have Patreon videos leading up to it in terms of what we're doing with Tales from the Loop, in terms of hacking that. Of course, we'll have a sit down with the entire cast, kind of for their initial thing to kind of talk about the shows and do character creation, all that stuff. And I think along with, changing the format a little bit in terms of, the shorter show, in talking with Jesse, one of the things that I want to strive for is, Jesse's the new blood. Let's bring in the new blood in cast members wise. We've kind of got a core group of role play, or role players here on RollPlay that you can kind of expect to pop up every once in a while, and whether it be a one shot or whether it be an actual show. But Jesse's a well-connected man. And I think that with that amount of connections, we can kind of bring some new people that you haven't really seen so much here on RollPlay. That's not to say you won't see a familiar face over there. We don't know where that casting's going to go. We're going to try to do as best as possible. And we kind of have a longer conversation ahead of us in terms of where we go with that. But I'm just excited that we've got a second DM, and we'll see how that works out. We're pretty happy with 2 DMs right now, but maybe somewhere in 2018 we can fit a third one in there. There definitely becomes a time where I have to start thinking about, well, I've got 7 days in a week. How much actual content do I want to produce, and how much do I actually want to stream on my own? Which I think Adam's probably already encountered that before. I have.
You ever seen that, that scene in Conan when they strap Arnold Schwarzenegger to the wheel and they make him push the wheel and they whip him? The little guy with the whip, that's chat. And you're Arnold Schwarzenegger. And the wheel is RollPlay shows. Yeah. Push the wheel, JP.
I know.
Push the wheel.
I know. That's not to say, a third one's out of the question. I think 3 shows a week is way more than enough. I think I'm pretty happy with that number. It's not to say that we won't do one shots. I already said that's one of the goals. But 3 is a good number. And I have a lot of faith in Jesse. He really impressed the hell out of me with the Christmas one shot. And it almost was kind of this will sound really hyperlative, I think is the word. Adam's the wordsmith here. I'm just the guy that makes words up on the spot. That it kind of like created this weird spark of creativity for that entire show with him saying like, hey, what if we change the overlays? I was like, oh yeah, I guess, we'll do that. And then he's like, hey, I wrote this stupid song before the show if you want to play this. I was like, okay. And then midway through the show, I'm like, well, this is getting kind of dark. What if I downloaded a pitch shifter and fucked with the music a little bit? And that worked out. And that was a lot of fun. And so it's always awesome just to bring someone else into the mix and kind of feed off their creative energy, which we haven't really been able to do for a while.
The whole show with Jesse is, it's not so much an experiment as it is we're going to try some different things and then see what happens. So I think it'll be cool to watch. Like JP said, like you have a new cast, you have a new GM, you're doing a new game, trying a new thing with a different amount of time. It's gonna feel different, and I'm excited about that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Go tweet at Jesse. Say we're glad to have you here. Blah blah blah. I don't know. Tweet Jesse nice things. go subscribe to his YouTube. He's close to 1 million. We still got 2 more things. Talked earlier in this video. I didn't realize we've been going for a while now. Talked earlier in this video. Live shows are still a thing. We're gonna do 4 of them this year. We've got one coming up.
Yes.
Alongside, in late 2017, I think I messaged Adam. I might have talked to him in one of those live shows and said, we got that 5-year anniversary coming up. Why don't we do something for that? I was like, oh yeah, we should do something, and we didn't know what to do. And then it was like, hey, I'm going to move in March. How are we going to do that big live show if you're going to move 2 weeks later? I don't know. That sounds really dumb, but let's do it. So then we're doing it. We're doing a live show on February 17th. It's a Saturday. The 18th is the 5-year anniversary. There are some other things that might happen around that time to coincide with the 5-year anniversary. But I'm not ready to talk about that stuff yet. But we're going to do another Court of Swords show. And that's to say, I know a lot of people are like, Court of Swords, you've done one and a half of those because one of them was a one shot with. Look, man, the set is built right now with a TV inside of it for some D&D. We don't need to reinvent the wheel before we reinvent the wheel. So we're just gonna do Court of Swords again.
You love Mars bar. If someone's like, "Hey, you want a Mars bar?" You'd be like, "Oh, another Mars bar."
Yeah.
I'm excited because we can take a really cool advantage of. I want that touchscreen table back. I want to play with that thing.
Fucking good, man.
So we have this advantage of like we did the work to set the tech up. D&D is like a fairly like miniatures heavy show, and being able to do the new Court of Swords with the tech in a live space, do some cool wizard shit. It's gonna be great. I'm looking forward to it. I love that game, and it's gonna carry the kind of energy of the new thing into a live environment. And I haven't gotten to play like a live role playing game with Zeke before, so.
Yeah, this will be Zeke's first time doing the role play live. I remember when we did whatever show it was where we did our Game of the Year show last year.
The one that we
frames. Did, and then 2 days later we did the role play live.
It wasn't. It was whatever we did before Swan Song. I can't remember.
I can't either. Anyways, it might have been Court of Swords.
Was it? I don't know.
It might have actually been. I don't remember. Chat, you'll have to correct us there. YouTube comments will have to correct us. But I remember specifically, I do remember this. I was taking Zeke, or at least I either took him to the airport, I was getting him to an Uber, and I remember him turning around and saying, "Hey, when am I going to get to do one of these?" I was like, "I don't know, Zeke. I don't know. I'll see you later." And
now's your chance, buddy.
Yeah, now's your chance, Zeke. You've worked your way onto a Court of Swords show, and now you're on the big ticket, Zeke. Yeah. So it's gonna be myself, Zeke, Gassy Mexican, and of course Adam. Saturday, February 17th, 1 p.m. Eastern. It'll be another 8-hour show. It'll be one day before the 5-year anniversary. It'll be the final show that we do here in this house, so nothing's really going to change too much with the set.
And then we're going to burn the house down. It's going to be great. No,
it's going to be great.
That's get the damage deposit back. So
it'll be interesting though, because I'm not kidding when I say that 2 weeks after that I have to move. So that is going to be a really weird time for everyone to both be at this house and also for me to move.
There'll be a lot of boxes around behind the set, I think.
Yeah, there will be for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the next live show. It's coming up quick. It's about 40 days ish out, 45 days out. So mark it on your calendars, or use the RollPlay calendar, or go over to twitch.tv/itmeJP/events to do so. But we're not done. We got one more thing. When did we do that? When did we do this? Was that November?
It wasn't that long ago.
I forget the exact date that we did this thing.
October 9th, 2017. Also, I love that Googling the thing, that's the first result now.
I know.
All right, we can stop being coy about it.
I saw that the SEO is strong with this. If you go and Google 5e Roundtable, RollPlay comes up first. We're the first ones there. We're doing another one, episode 2, which is to say maybe there's an episode 3. I don't know. We'll figure that out. But yeah, this was such a great hit in October that we're doing a second one. I'm going to be jumping on the show to moderate it. It'll air on Sunday, February 11th at 5 p.m. Eastern. It'll be Adam, Matthew Mercer, Matthew Koval, aka Evil Matt, and Mike Merles. And the cool thing about this is it wasn't me begging these guys to get back on camera. Adam and fucking Merles were having a conversation on Twitter, and Merles was like, "Hey, we should do another one of those things." And I saw it, and Adam hey, message Merles right now. We got to do one of these. So we're doing another one. And that'll be that Sunday in February 11th at 5 p.m. Eastern. So I'm looking forward to that. I think that
me too.
The conversation that came out of that first one and the reception of said conversation was great. I don't know really too much in terms of subject matter for this one. That's something that me and Adam are going to kind of talk about. I think that there's definitely something to be said about making a role-playing game for a show and kind of doing a role-playing game on a show and that type of stuff.
Yeah, the conversation that old Mikey Merles and I were having that kind of spawned like we should do this again was about. And this is a conversation that Mike and I have had in our 2-hour, 3-hour bursts over the course of several years at cons. Is like, how do you make D&D work as a show? What does work? What doesn't? I'm obviously going to talk a lot about our changes in Court of Swords and kind of like what we're doing to D&D to make it a better show for our audience. I know Matt and Mike obviously all have ideas about that, so I think that'll certainly be a focus. My predictions are that Mike Merles is going to say something really smart and revealing about the design process of D&D. Matt Mercer is going to say something really heartfelt, and everyone's going to be like, "Oh, Matt."
Yeah.
Matt Colville and I are going to disagree about something and kind of look at each other like, "You're really wrong," but I'm not going to take up all the space in the room telling you why you're wrong right now. But I will subtweet you later. And I think it's going to be a great talk. It's a group of very smart individuals plus me and JP, and I think it'd be real cool.
Yeah, I think it'll also be fun too because Mercer is about 48 hours from or 72 hours from launching their whole new thing, and so they'll be smack dab. Is that the word? Smack dab in the middle of it.
That's the term.
That just sounded weird coming out of my mouth. We're not the smartest ones in the room. We're came back to that. But yeah, they'll be in the thick of it with their new show for Mercer. So I'm really curious to see what all they're going to be changing for their stuff. We'll talk to them about that. I know Colville's got some stuff, as he always does. A very opinionated guy, and Merles makes the damn game, so he's got a lot of opinions as well. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. That'll be a lot of fun to do another one of those Sunday, February the 11th at 5 p.m. Eastern. So that's what we got, at least for the first 3-4 months here of 2018. As always, stuff can kind of be changed, can be added in. We'll just see where it goes. I think that we kind of 2017, I wouldn't say bumbled through it, but we got through it. There was a lot of wrenches that were kind of thrown in a lot of different plans that we had, but that's just kind of how it goes. So I'm super excited for everything that we've talked about. I think Jesse's going to be a great addition. I cannot wait to get that new show started and kind of see. I think you kind of hit the nail on the head when you started talking about different types of sci-fi from different people. I want to see how they kind of work with the Swan Song. Or sorry, I'm already doing it with the Stars Without Numbers. Jesus, that's going to be a hard one to get out of.
The 7-second delay in the like ramp, the like rapper honk noise where you say bad words. All right, listen, I'm starting a new PayPal account, and every time you call it Swan Song, you got to donate $50 to the PayPal account, and we'll give it away to charity. Give it to NASA.
I think it's because in my mind, we didn't play Stars Without Numbers. We played Swan Song.
Yeah, I think that's true for a lot of people.
I see that. I see the Stars Without Numbers like the front page or cover. I'm like, oh yeah, that's Swan Song. That's the Swan Song game. Yeah. Totally. So that'll be fun. Also, I think that everything you told me about the second edition looks cool. Apparently, they fixed the ship combat stuff.
I know, spaceships.
Apparently, the ship combat will just be ridden out of the show.
So we'll do. I think this is a good opportunity for us to do a like a review, or I mean, I can do one just me. We could do for Patreon if you want, but like I'll just talk about all the differences as a run up to the new show and be like, yo, here's some new stuff. Here's what I'm excited about. Here's the things that have changed. So I'm digging in. I'm getting my hard copies in the mail, but I live in Canada, so everything takes forever. But I've looked at the PDF, and I'm starting to think about building the sector. So
awesome. Yeah. Well, I think I'm going to add a new goal here. I don't know why I'm doing this, but I want to break 100 shows this year.
Nice. Yeah, we could do it.
I mean, we're only 12
more
off.
Shows.
I just do more one-shots.
Yep.
I mean, if we're adding on Jesse and we do 3 every week, that we mark in 154 or so.
Crack that whip on Jesse. Make him do it.
Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at. We'll be doing another Q&A this month. We're going to kind of let this simmer and let you guys think about it. We'll be reading all the comments everywhere and listening to what you guys have to say. And then we'll do another Q&A on Patreon probably later this month. We'll get that announced when we know more, and you guys can definitely ask us a lot of the questions that I'm sure you're going to have. Feel free to tweet us stuff. Feel free to follow RollPlay. And that's that. Adam, you want to add in anything here at the end?
No, I'm really excited to play more role-playing games in 2018. It's like my favorite thing to do in the whole world. So more good.
Awesome.
I'm down.
Good stuff. You can tell it's late around here. We're going to call this a video. And thanks everyone so much for watching. We had a great 2017. Let's see what happens in 2018 with RollPlay, the Jesse Cox Show. That's the name. I'm sorry. I got to talk to Jesse. We're naming it that. He's just going to have to work with it. From what we know of what he's going to make about that show, he's going to have to shoehorn the fuck out of that name.
Live from the internet, it's the Jesse Cox Show. With tonight's special guest, Andy Samberg.
Yeah, it'd be great.
No.
It'll be
No.
great. I'm super into it. All right, that's it, everyone. Thank you so much, and we'll see you on more RollPlay in 2018. We're out. Bye-bye.